Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to this week's episode of Monday Motivation. Monday Motivation is for you if you want a boost to your morning, your Monday, maybe even your week, because sometimes Monday mornings get a bit of a bad rap. So what better way to start the week than a boost of motivation that you can carry through your week, just to motivate you whenever you need it. Now, this week is part 2 of a Monday Motivation. And this week, we are continuing the theme from last week. The theme, of course, as it says in the title here, is sorting your head out. So what happens when life throws you a curveball or life throws you lemons? You know, people often say when life throws you lemons, make lemonade. But when you're in it, what do you do to get yourself back in it or back out of it? So, last week I covered the first 3, which were all about frequent sleep, you know, and if you haven't seen it, just scroll down below, you'll see it was episode 18, I believe, season 4, episode 18. We'll have a look through the many videos that I have on this page. So we talked about a fresh start, and so many people get into a place of stress because they're not getting enough sleep. That's one of the first things that can go. So getting your frequent sleep. We talked about getting quiet, or maybe exercise for some of you. And I talked about a feast for the senses. So this week I'm carrying on, and I'm going down the little list that I'd prepared earlier. So the first thing that I will say is, for those of you that like to watch in the background, that's absolutely fine. I know that some of you are commuting, some of you are just kind of like lazing in bed and having a watch, some of you are getting your kids ready or getting the breakfast done. So thank you so much. For those of you that want to take part, whether this is live or on the replay, then please feel free to type in the comments below. I will so love to hear how you're applying this and what you did. And for those of you that want a bit more of a private conversation, because let's face it, this is a public page, you might not want to be splashing everything just in the comments below, then we do have one of the most supportive places, I think, to land right here on Facebook, and that's the Visibility Vibes Tribe Facebook group. And for those of you that want to take part in the conversations that go on there, all you need to do is scroll up to the top of this page, click on Visit Group, and I will let you in. There are 3 very, very quick and easy questions to answer that will take you like 20 seconds. But I would be more than pleased to see you in there and to hear about how you're implementing and what you're doing with the week. So, that said, let's crack on with the tips that I have gleaned for helping to sort your head out. Now, where have I even got these from? As many of you know, I have been qualified as a life coach for many years now, for a lot longer than before I started my business in 2010. And I picked out some of the most quickest, most effective ways to really sort of help you out if you're feeling in a bit of a funk. You know, maybe things don't feel like they're going that well. Maybe you've had a sudden surprise or a change, so you've had to kind of change what you're doing, how you're thinking about it. Maybe you've just decided that you want more for yourself. You want more for yourself and you want to start doing more, and there's a few internal gremlins. Whatever the reason, do save this video and come back to it as a great resource, but also do share it with your friends. So you can just share it on your timeline, because you never know who of your family or friends or Facebook people might need to hear this. So, following on from last week, one of the things that you might want to do, now whether you are working for yourself or whether you work for somebody else, this is just as relevant regardless. One of the things that I remember doing, I remember there was a particular role that I had that I found really hard going. I found it really hard going on an emotional level, even though I could do the job really, really well. And there were lots of external factors that contributed towards this. So for you, it might be that the values are slightly different. So you're working for a particular organisation and their values don't align with your values, which is, by the way, one of the most common reasons that people come and work with me, like more closely in a one-to-one situation. They have something going on at work. Either they want to expand and make leaps, or they just feel like something's not right. Something doesn't feel good to them. So here's what I say to that. Fill up. Fill up? Fill up, Jenny, what do you mean? Well, what I mean by fill up is if you're feeling very much like there's lots of external factors that are affecting how you're feeling while you're doing your work, and this could be the same if you're self-employed and working from your home office or anywhere else for that matter. Fill up with positive vibes. Now, what do I mean by positive vibes? You might be in a job where, you know, you are doing some sort of administration or something where you have an office to yourself, and you can listen to whatever you need to listen to, provided that you're not on a conference call with, you know, the rest of your team or with the board or somebody like that. Then there might be things that you want to have playing in the background. So there's a reason why so many people love listening to music. You know, music has the power to transcend any kind of emotional time. Music has the power to take you from being, you know, the kind of like down and out and not knowing what to do, to in a different state of mind, in a more positive state of mind, in a happier place, bringing back or flooding back memories. So it could be that you fill yourself up with the positive you know, energy, if you like, or emotions from there. Or it could be that you get yourself a playlist on something like YouTube. It could even be that right here on Facebook that you go through and you have a look for videos and things that you're going to find uplifting, and save them, put them all together. You know, Facebook has the power now where, or gives you the ability, if you like, where you can save lots of videos and you can put them in a list. So this means that even though you don't know what's coming at you in your day, you now have the ability to be able to prepare for if something is going to knock you sideways. And you'll know, you know, if you're going into a specific environment, it might be work, it might be someone's home, it might be a club that you're part of, it might be association. If you're going into that environment and you're feeling really kind of like negative or feeling down, or it's not serving you, then by all means prepare in advance. You know, have something that you know is going to make you feel great, it's going to uplift you, make you feel positive. I'm just going to take a moment out to say hello to Faye. Thank you for watching, Faye. So take a moment to just get those things sorted so that you can fill yourself up with positivity. Now, there are various ways in which I've done that and various ways in which my clients have done it. For some people, it's reconnecting with nature. So it might not be about music. It might be, I remember working on a project for a company. I was consulting for them, and they had these beautiful grounds. So rather than sitting at a desk that didn't belong to me, scratching my head and trying to work out how the next step or the next piece was going to fit into place, I would take myself, my notepad, and also my phone, so I had a recording device, and I would be able then to walk around these gorgeous gardens, you know, soak in the scenery, as well as just have things turn over in my head. And it was a much more positive experience than sitting in a cubicle of a building that I wasn't familiar with people wondering who I was, maybe asking me questions, and not being able to do that. So remember that in every moment that you have a choice, if something doesn't feel great to you, you'll feel it. It'll feel a bit shonky in your stomach, you know. You'll get that gut feeling. And that is normally your body's way of letting you know, there's something that you need to pay attention to. Not necessarily that there's something wrong. There's something that you need to pay attention to. The body has a brilliant way of, you know what it's like, you do something, you feel really excited, you know, and this weekend I've been watching a few more names being added to the event that I'm hosting live in London on the 8th of September, Time to Shine. I might as well give that a plug while I'm here live. And as I've been watching some people that I know, some people that I don't know that have been making their bookings, I've been filled with a sense of excitement, not because somebody's booked something, but because of the possibility that's open to them. You know, I was sat doing a little bit of work yesterday for a couple of hours, and I started to feel like, you know what, I need to go and do a bit of food shopping. And I sat there and carried on working until the point where it wasn't necessarily a bad feeling, but a feeling in my gut where it's like, okay, you've got to stop sitting here now. Number one, it's a Sunday. Number two, there's something else that you want to do and that you need to do. So sometimes that feeling doesn't have to be smack bang shock horror and you feel desolate. It could just be that something doesn't feel right. Take that as your body's way of saying, time to do something else. So really check in. So first of all, fill up with positive emotions, positive feelings, positive vibes. That's the first thing. And you might do that through the music you listen to. You might listen to podcasts. You might not be able to listen to something at work, so why not listen on your way to work? You know, as I said last week, start the day with maybe a meditation or a run or something that resets you before you've started, and then fill yourself up with that. You know, so many people will be driving to work or driving somewhere and listening to the radio and kind of channel hopping, listening to the news. Then you get to your destination, you wonder why you feel a bit down. You know, it's very traditional in the press to report kind of grab out stories. You know, there's been a lot of sad things. You know, Aretha's passing and Kofi Annan's passing within the last few days. So it could be that you listen to something like that because you want to find out more about what's happening, you know, on this. And then you might, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. I just saw your comment, Faye. I'm going to say something to that. So you might start off by listening just for an update, for example, on the news. And then before you know it, you're hearing about, you know, the bombings in different places and the doom and gloom. What a way to charge yourself up before you go to a meeting, before you get to the office, before you get to work. What a way to fill yourself up before, you know, you go on to the next phase of your day. So rather than doing that, I remember many years ago when I would spend hours on the road. Yes, I had the radio, but I also had a CD player in the car. And for many of you, you've got your MP3 players. So I just used to listen to a collection of, I'd use it as like a learning tank. If there was something that I wanted to learn more of or more about, I would listen to that. I remember one of the best CDs for a long road trip was Jack Canfield's Chicken Soup for the Soul. And that would give like lots of different lessons and lots of different really great experiences and other people's stories that you could listen to and get inspiration from. So at this moment, I'll take a break out to say, for those of you that are saying hello, so Faye's already said hello, and we've got the lovely Lisa on too. So Lisa said her body is, no, Faye even said, her body's telling her it's time to win the lottery. Now, here's something that I want to say about that, and this isn't actually necessarily in response just to Faye's comment. This is for those of you that are watching this, you know, either live now or on the replay. So ultimately, many people say they would like to win the lottery, and this is an interesting one to me. So I'm going to take Faye's example as an example to make like almost like a teaching point for all of you. If you would like to win the lottery, there's one way to get you closer to winning the lottery, and that's to be in it. So it's like how we do anything in life, and where the sorting your head out piece comes is that sometimes before we've even gone into something, we've taken ourselves out of the game. I know this firsthand. It's something that you know, I have done. I hope will do less and less as I move forward, but it's something that I have done on so many occasions. So let's say that you do want to win the lottery. The first thing to do is don't ever take yourself out of the game. Do whatever it takes to get yourself in front of that opportunity that you want. And if it's winning the lottery, the easiest way is to buy a lottery ticket. Now, if you're serious about this, you might even go and buy a lottery ticket for every single draw that happens in the week, thus increasing your chances. So don't ever take yourself out of the game, and listen to when you commit to do something for yourself. And this is such a great and kind of good generic example to use, Faye, so thank you for posting that there. If you find yourself making the sorts of choices and sorts of decisions that feel slightly scary, that's a different feeling in your body to one of, I'm just not 100% happy. It might be a nervous excitement or something like that. But do pay close attention to what goes on in your head when you make a decision. And I come across this a lot with business owners. You know, I deal with business owners, some of which are doing the transition between job and starting a business, some of which are getting the business started and ramping up, and some of which have been going great guns and they're looking for a new level of visibility. And some of them are doing really well in terms of profitability. They want to get in front of more people, or they want to grow their business even more. Maybe they want to take on staff, maybe they want to get in front of a new audience, maybe they want to go international, maybe they just want to supersize what they're doing. Either way, there's a point at all of those stages where you make a choice. Are you taking yourself out of the game? And if so, the reason that you're likely doing that is because there's something going on in your head. What's worth doing is pulling whatever that thing is or whatever that voice tells you in your head, and that's the place to start with these sorting your head out tips. So let's excuse me, so let's say, for example, take a sip of water there. Let's say, for example, you have made a decision that you want to win the lottery. There'll be something that comes up in your head first off. Now, for a very small percentage of people, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. This is my plan. I'm very excited about it, and they go. But for a majority of people, it'll be like, but what if I don't win? And, you know, what if I win the lottery and I don't know what to do with the money? You know, there's always something else that people are concerned about or worried about as their next step. So in the example I gave for people starting their business, for example, if you are going looking to transcend between the job and the business, you might hear all sorts of bits of information like jump and the net will appear. Well, that's all well and good, but if your thought is, I want to stop being an employee, for example, and start being self-employed, the biggest concern that most people will speak to me about is, well, how do I replace my income? And it's interesting because although it's a physical thing to do, actually a lot of it is a mindset piece. It's a way that we think, the way that we do. So the first thing is by making the decision, well, I need to make X amount of money before I make the leap, for example. So then the gremlins will come up. Oh, but you can't maybe, or no one else that does this sort of thing maybe charges that much, or it means I'm going to have to sell 100 customers to doing that. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that frequency and that consistency. That lets you know that what you do is magical. It lets them know that what you do works, and it gets you into that consistent pattern, and also gets your income coming in if you charge enough. So then people will might get to that place where they're like, okay, I know what the plan is, I know what I need to do. Oh, but I don't like charging. All this does is brings the head stuff up. So sorting your head out might be around getting rid of the kerfuffle and the confusion. It might be around having a clear focus. It might be around having a vision. It might be around making a really great impact. It could even be around how you're articulating your products and services. Could be around your energy. You know, I mentioned last week, sometimes it's as simple as getting into a regular sleep pattern. Hey, good morning, Julia. Thank you for joining, Julia. I'm waving at you, Julia. So it could be as much as getting into one of those patterns. Either way, part of the sorting your head out piece behind this is making the decision and choosing. And that's why I'm so grateful to so many of you who have said yes to come into the event Time to Shine. Not because you've said yes to come into the event, but because you've stood or stepped into doing the thing that you want to do on a much bigger scale and a much bigger level. And the event is going to be some teaching, but most experiential, because for some of you, I want you to experience how great your work is. I want you to be able to show how great your work is. And I really want you to meet the other people in the room. There are some phenomenal business people come in. There are some people that are getting started. There are so many different layers of different people. But when you say yes to doing something, whether it's joining a mastermind, whether it's going on a group coaching program, whether it's engaging the services of a coach or a mentor, whether it's buying the new car, whether it's going to the showroom, whether it's getting a lottery ticket, you know, whether it's looking at the new health regime, maybe looking at what you're eating, there comes a point where that would have been a difficult decision to make, but you've made it and you've moved forward. So one way to get there that has worked really well for me, has worked really well for clients, is by looking at what's going on in their head. And as I said in that tip, filling up with positives. Wherever you can, wherever you've got a space, you've got a choice to listen to something that might take you down or someone that might take you down. Maybe, you know, we all know that one person that we spend time talking to and all they do is whinge and moan and then we feel quite depleted afterwards. It could be that you need to spend less time with that person or have a different dynamic with that person for when they, you know, when they start with that and you feel yourself getting depleted, then a way to change that into something that's positive surrounding you is maybe to help them talk about a subject where they can feel positive, they can feel good. So never negate the people around you for, you know, helping yourself to be in a different space. And finally, the last tip that I've got on this particular one, and this was so hard to pick because there were so many different tips I could have shared with you. This could easily be a 5-part Monday motivation. But give yourself space. We live in a really, really busy world. We're bombarded by things all the time, whether it's online or offline, emotions, sights, sounds, smells, taste, all these sorts of things that contribute to how we feel. We're so bombarded. And one of the things that I'm starting to see are some of the most successful people I know are stripping back, whether it's, again, a business owner, whether it's a CEO of a company. Having your calendar so full to overflowing that you don't even know what you're doing next. Now, this is going to sound really strange, but I had a massive light bulb moment probably about 12 months ago when I realised that I was taking my habits from my corporate role from, way before 2010, where it was like a badge of honour to be busy. People would ask, how are you doing? Oh, I'm really well. I'm so busy at the moment. And it was like this badge of honour. And unfortunately, one of the things that I did initially in the first few years of my business was took that busyness out of my corporate role, where I was being paid no matter what, into my company, into my business. And by doing that, it meant that I would be busy for being busy's sake, which actually didn't serve me. And it's one of the things that I really enjoy going through when I'm working with clients, because we look at our diary and we're busy and we think we need to be busy, we need to be busy. Well, actually, when you start to create the space and give yourself the space, whether it's at work or whether it's within your own company or own business, you start to see the gaps that are being filled that don't necessarily need to be filled. But what's juicy is you start to experience when you utilise that space. It might be that you're busy and there are things that you're doing, but you could literally have blocks of time where if you didn't do anything, it wouldn't harm your company moving forward. And that's what I really want you to absorb, what it could be like to have the space. And as usual, I can't speak today, I can't speak, the dust cart's coming. I won't even try and get the words out of my mouth. But the dust cart's coming in the background, which means that you might hear some background interference. So as I was saying, just flick the notifications that are going through. Thank you for those of you that are joining. You can always go back and watch this from the beginning. So give yourself some space. And here's the sort of thing, or here's 3 recommendations that I would recommend you give yourself space for, which makes such a difference to any given hour, to any given day, even to your working week. The space to give yourself is time to think. So that's the first thing. When you have time to think, it means you're not making rash decisions. It means you're not making decisions out of fear. What I would say is there comes a point where you give yourself time to think, and then there's a point where you overthink it. So you might give yourself more and extra time, and then use that time rather than give yourself space to think, space to worry. And if you start to go to that place, worry doesn't feel good. Remember I said a few moments back about how it feels in the body. If you're sitting with something or giving yourself time to think, then you will be looking at the possibility of what happens once that happens. When you're worrying, you're thinking actually of all the reasons why you can't. And a lot of people don't catch themselves doing this. They'll sit and give themselves space or time to think, and then they'll come back. I've had so many people that have sent me messages and said, I'd really like to come, but, and then, for example, they've done this, or I'd really like to work with you, Jenny, but, or I really want to go for that job, but. And what comes after the but is all of these reasons that they've literally sat and thought up and created, and then all of a sudden they've taken themselves out of that opportunity. So create space for yourself to think. And by thinking, you might be going out for a walk in nature if that's your thing. You might be doing some meditation. You might go for a run or do some form of exercise. You might be sketching something out. Some people journal their kind of like mind stuff out. Some people write, their stuff out. You could be drawing it, doodling it. You could be reading it, but either way, it will feel good in your body because it will just feel good like you're seeking a solution. You won't feel icky or funny about it. The next thing that you might want to give yourself space for is to revisit. So the next part of that is you might want to revisit something. So the biggest reason that I see amongst my clients of not moving forward is because they're then casting back to something that didn't work before, and that thing might be completely different. It could be that they went to ask their boss for a pay rise, and all of a sudden they have this business, and now they're not doing something because they didn't get the pay rise, which has actually got nothing to do with any of it. It's what we do with it, and it's how we internalize it. So when you are revisiting things, just check in with yourself that you're not just going back and having a look at, you know, what everything that went wrong, kind of making yourself a checklist of why you shouldn't do it. Just revisit it and ask yourself, like, what is this really about? It's one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself. What is this really about? And when you start to look deeper as to why you're thinking about something in a certain way, the answer will reveal itself to you pretty quickly. You know, no worry, no thinking it over. When you ask yourself an honest question, you'll give yourself an honest answer. Okay, worth writing that down. When you ask yourself an honest question, you'll give yourself an honest answer. And from that honest answer is where you can start moving forward. And then finally, give yourself space to do nothing. We've become a nation of crammers, cramming everything in, cramming, you know, this, that and the other into our lives, where until we don't have any space to actually do nothing. And believe it or not, doing nothing is a decision. Doing nothing is doing something because we're choosing to do nothing. I'm not talking about burying your head in the sand for, you know, a specific situation or circumstance where you might need to make a decision on it. I'm talking about when your diary is so full, when your head is so full that you just literally need to stop. Stop and do nothing, because doing something else is just going to add to the busyness, the craziness and the lack of space that you've already got for yourself. So try one of these, let me know how you get on. And again, if you don't want to post in the comments below, because it is a public arena, anybody on or off Facebook could probably go on and read these. I would love to hear how you used or which is the most significant thing you used from last week's share and what you would like to do moving forward. So just reading the comment there, my biggest thing is worrying that people are taking advantage out of my good nature. Okay, I'm going to answer this before we go because this is a really interesting one. I had to learn a very hard lesson in people taking advantage of my good nature. And here's the thing. When we do something for someone's good, we do it because we want to help. And like I say that this is a really valuable lesson to me. I would say from about my teens, easily from my early teens, easily to my mid to late 30s. So, you know, we're talking, you know, more than a decade and a half. I would do things. Now, I haven't got time to go into the depths of all of this, but hopefully this will give you like a starter for 10. When you do something for somebody, check in with why you're doing it. If I decide to stand on the street and throw out £50 notes and people pick them up and they start rejoicing and having a party and they go off and spend the money, then I have thrown that money out for people to do what they want with it. I don't have the right to say, oh my gosh, that person took two £50 notes and that person did that. Or that person spent it on something that I would never have spent it on. I don't agree with it. So when we are giving, the place to start, when we feel that, and I had to do this myself, it's a pretty tough thing to do, but it's so worth it because it blows it open and stops it. When we feel that somebody has taken advantage of our good nature, check in with the reason why we're doing it in the first place. Okay, and this isn't just for the person who asked the question, this is just for anyone watching, because this is something that I come across a lot when I'm working with people. We're givers, we like to give. You have to do something from a place of just being. You know, a very easy example is I get up, you know, a lot earlier than 7 a.m. on a Monday morning to give these tips. Now, if nobody turned up to watch this and I said, oh, well, you know, I don't think I want to do it anymore because no one's watching it, there's no point. My reasons for doing this 7 a.m. live wouldn't be genuine reasons. I've been doing these for about 2.25 years, I think it is now. And If I do one of these and nobody turns up, nobody turns up. But I do it because I'm being of service. You know, for those of you that have got businesses and you share things on Facebook, when you share, you know, your content, as you might call it, or your tips or your techniques or your nuggets, if you can do it from a place of, I'm going to share it, even if no one watches, I'm going to share it if no one likes it, I'm going to share it even if nobody comments on it. If you can do it from that place and still feel good, and remember to check in with your body on that, if you can do it from that place and still feel great about it, then you're completely doing it for the best reasons for yourself. But if there is some sort of, well, I've done this thing and the person didn't react or respond in the way that I expected them to, then it's likely that your reasons for it aren't maybe as pure as you think they are. So this isn't a beating up of self, this is a way to explore. And what I would say to you who'd put the comment on there is, have a look at one specific example of where you felt taken advantage of, and I'd say this for all of you. Take a look at one specific example where you felt taken advantage of and find out what it was that you were expecting at that point. And again, if you're being honest and telling the truth to yourself, it reveals a lot of things. It also acts as a guiding stick, if you like, of when to do it next time and when not to. So I hope that's been helpful. Really hard one to try and explain in a couple of minutes and a couple of sentences. But it's really important that if you ever feel that you've been taken advantage of, the best place to start with, like, what happened. So if you are struggling with this, it would really be worth having a proper conversation. I've gone on for over 30 minutes now, so I do need to go off this. But do send me a private message. And let's explore how we can go forward and do more. So thank you. We've got things that people are doing moving forwards, giving myself permission to stop, and also that doing nothing is my favourite spiritual exercise. And it's a tough one. It might sound like the easy option. You know, what about if it's the easy option? It isn't the easy option, deciding to do that. So kudos to you for having that as a spiritual practice. Doing nothing can be quite tough. So what about if others say you are being taken advantage of? Okay, the short answer to that is, don't worry about what other people think or what other people say. If someone else is saying that you're being taken advantage of, number one, don't invite them into that conversation. There might be something that you've said and they've picked up and they've gone, well, yeah, you're being taken advantage of. They might be agreeing with what they feel is coming from you. If they're deciding to put their 2 pennies worth in, like man on the street shouts up and says, hey, you're doing those 7 a.m. lives, you're being taken advantage of. You want to be charging, you know, your normal services, your daily coaching rate, not doing it for free or not giving it away. I have a choice as to whether I absorb and take that on or not. And I'll say, thank you so much for that insight. I'm good. I'm happy to go on. So I hope that helps. Do continue this conversation in the Vibes Tribe. I would like to continue this conversation, but I do need to go. I am going to be being interviewed for an interview series on sales mentality. But talking of sales mentality, if you like a good freebie, you like a good gift, look out on this timeline, because down here and also over on the Entrepreneurial Women's Network page and likely in the group, in my Facebook group, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can get yourself access to over 15 different experts when it comes to mentality, sales, mindset, makeover. Today is a day that for just putting in your email address, you can go in and pick and select a variety of free gifts that will help you in business and also in life. So do look out for that sales mentality, run by my lovely friend Christine Schlonsky, and she is over in Germany but serving people worldwide. So I'm going to get ready for my interview, and do get ready and have a look at the comments below. Sorry that we've run out of time. This is such a juicy subject. I knew it would be, and I feel like there's something that I want to do, because I always have to incorporate something around mindset in everything we do. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your comments. No apology necessary with the whoops sorry. I really would like the opportunity to go deep on that question, but it's a short question with a bigger answer. So Lots of love to you all. Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you in the group, and look forward to seeing you sign up and get your free gifts that will be going on for the next, I think it's the next 10 days, but I'd grab them now. First up while you can. Lots of love to you all. Bye for now.